Let's take a second and let's talk about Captain Marvel. Some really funny stuff going on with this character, as always, because guess what? Nobody likes her. Before we do that, let's talk about YouTube. So YouTube is doing a thing where they're unsubscribing people. They're doing it in mass right now. So I want you to take a second if you're a subscriber and make sure you're still subscribed. Heck, if you're not a subscriber, go ahead and just check that box anyway, because you won't regret it. Anyway, let's move on to Captain Marvel. Let's talk about the spectacular, the amazing sales that she has. Oh, wait, what's this? They're very subpar and terrible. See, the thing is, this character has never been very liked. Well, she was liked when she was Miss Marvel, and she was likable, and people liked her and appreciated her. Then they're like, well, we're going to go ahead and just turn her into this. And now nobody likes the character. The sales are always bad. In the movies, well, let's not talk about the movie. I have a lot of theories about it. We're going to stick to the comics, even though I think the character is just as unlikable in the movies. As you can see, look at these 3 pictures of Brie Larson on the side here. She has that same block of wood expression. Never changes. The forever perpetual block of wood. Brie Larson is not likable. This is why they're talking about pairing her up with Spider-Man, with Tom Holland, who is a likable person, who brings a likable character to the screen. Despite what you might want to say, the flaws that Spider-Man has, I think Tom Holland does play a good Peter Parker. I think he does play a good Spider-Man. He's very young, very personable. I like his personality. I think he brings a good energy to the Peter Parker role. Now, Brie Larson, she needs to suck off other people's energy to survive. This is why Jude Law and Sam Jackson were with her in every scene during her own movie. That's because no one could stand to look at her for more than 2 minutes. Now, let's talk comic book sales. So, like I said, people liked this character when she was Miss Marvel. She actually sold pretty well, pretty decent. I don't think she had her own consistent book for the longest time, but she wasn't a character that was capable of sustaining her own book. They decided, well, we're just going to give her one anyway, change her to this big feminist icon. And as you see, these sales have been bad ever since. In fact, they've had to relaunch this book at least, I think 10 times now. They've had to reboot the book. Now, what they do, this is a scamming tactic that Marvel Comics does quite often, is when a character that they can't cancel, like Captain Marvel, gets low on sales like this one is doing, what they'll do is they'll cancel it and then they'll reboot it. Boom, you get a new number 1. And comic shops, as always and predictably, will order the hell out of it. They'll order like 200,000 issues of Captain Marvel number 1. That's a combined from all the comic shops total. And it won't sell. Then from that number 1, you'll see a number 2 drop off to like 30,000 and then so on and so on. It's a decline back to its normal numbers, which if they were to let this book keep going would end up below 10,000. And I think that's where they mean to go with this title, because the sales aren't quite at 10K just yet. But make no mistake, if they didn't do the reboot like they're going to do, I guarantee it, the books would probably eventually end up below 5,000. That's why they have to constantly reboot the numbers. So what's going on here? Let's take a look real quick. So here's a little chart of Captain Marvel's sales. You see here number 5 was at 26, then 31, then 26, then 32, then 37, then 27. Now the funny thing here, and this is what's really hilarious, is number 9 actually had a bump. And that's because they introduced a new character. Now the thing is, when you introduce a new character, you're going to have some sales spikes. That's because people believe that comic books are going to be worth money again. That's not going to be the case. The only thing that makes money in comics is like the 1 in 100 variants and stuff. Like the very, very rare variants will sometimes end up being worth a little bit of money. You can have an occasional book that might creep up a few $100s, but none of them will ever be worth big, big money like the old, gold and silver age books and stuff like that. Those books, are never going, you're never going to see that again. Okay. And there's a lot of reasons for that, being like one, back then no one had a clue comic books would ever be what they are now as far as the characters go. And kids didn't save them. Kids would destroy them, spill candy and pop all over them. They didn't last. So if you had some meticulous kid that actually managed to keep that amazing fantasy number 15 in a mint condition, or even in a presentable condition, they're worth a lot of money for that reason. Now, Captain Marvel books will never see that kind of value because the character is a piece of crap. But the signs of the reboot are there. So the sales are down. They're going to keep going down. And that's why when you go to solicits for Captain Marvel number 12, Captain Marvel number 13, Captain Marvel number 14, and I would guess 15 and 16, they don't give you the exact date. And they're not going to tell you that the comic book is going to end. But the funny thing is, it's being set up that she's going to become some kind of dark, evil person. You can see her here holding the Avengers down to the ground, beating them up. The next issue, it's hinted that she kills one, and she's trying to take them out. There's a solicit that says that maybe she takes out 2 Avengers. One thing about comic books is death is never permanent. So anything that she does in this won't have any repercussions, and the characters will be brought back in no time. So what is this doing? This is setting up a redemption story. So she'll become evil. I'm guessing this has something to do with this stupid mask that she's wearing. As dumb as it. This is the design quality over there. This looks like a ripoff of something from a video game that I can't quite nail, like something from Mass Effect or whatever. So, and look what they did to She-Hulk. Lovely She-Hulk just ruined her, man. So what's happening here? So she's going to be evil. She's going to take out an Avenger, right? Oh, you weren't under your own control, Carol. You had a mind control device on you. Now she's got to go out and redeem herself to the people. Guess what that means? You get another Captain Marvel number 1. You get to get those numbers up from 20,000 back up to 100,000. And you can have Kevin Feige point to the books when Captain Marvel 2 comes out, or when she is the main character in Spider-Man's movie, which is probably going to be the case because they want to force her on you as always. They can say, well, look at these comic book sales. Captain Marvel's clearly selling. We just shipped 100,000 books for this extremely popular and loved character. Because what they do not want to do is point out that the character is not liked and doesn't sell. That's not good PR, and it doesn't sound good. So they keep rebooting. That way they can say sales are consistently high with the character. And they do it very sneaky-like. So right now the book is still selling around 20-something thousand. Right? It's not into the teens just yet, but it will be. So the trick is you got to reboot it before it hits the teens. You get that energy up a little bit. Comic shops are ordering more. And those sales come magically right back up and don't make Marvel look like a bunch of clowns. So expect another reboot. This will be like the 11th or 12th reboot for Captain Marvel. And they don't just do this with her, folks. They do this with all the other characters that nobody likes, like Ms. Marvel, the character that looks like she bought her costume from the pajama rack at Walmart. They do this with all of their lame characters, like the Champions book that's full of the Burger King's kids clubs. The Burger King Kids Club team, where you have all of the little checkbox characters running around as a team. No one likes that book, so they just constantly reboot it. This is a very old tactic, at least of the past decade, that they've consistently done. The only ones that don't really get this treatment too much are ones like Spider-Man and such. They only reboot them like every 100 issues or so. So anyway, that is pretty much it. Let me know what you think about these slimy tactics that Marvel does to make people force the idea that she's popular on people. Let me know what you think about how they rip off comic shops. And make sure you're still subscribed. Like, share the video. Get it out there. Especially that like and comment. Make sure you do those. It helps the old P-score. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, make sure you check out my Teespring store where you can support me by buying some merch. Peace.